Let's talk about coding in Java. In this lecture, I will talk about coding standards, comments, classes, variables, constants, assignment operators, expressions, casting, and I/O. You will be able to create your first Java program once you complete this lecture. You can search the web for Java programming syntax to get further info on this topic. To maintain, upgrade, change, or debug code, you must be able to understand it. Code readability is critical for any programmer in any language. In this course, there will be a strong emphasis not only on learning and writing Java code to solve problems, but also writing code that is readable. The coding standards I show you in this course are designed to make your code readable so that you have less bugs and therefore less technical support phone calls. A Java class file is a file containing Java bytecode that can be executed on the Java Virtual Machine, the JVM. That means a class is basically a bunch of variables and procedures. I will cover more on classes in the future. Here is an example of the Java syntax for a class. Ignore the public keyword for now. We'll cover that when we get into OOP and classes in several weeks. The class keyword tells the compiler that we are making a class as opposed to a variable or a procedure. Refer to this class example. The curly brackets indicate the start and end of the class. All the code for the class goes inside the curly brackets. The code inside the brackets should be indented in one tab so that it's easy to see where the class starts and ends. This is called indenting to show scope. A formal definition for a procedure is a short, named set of instructions designed to complete a specific task. Short means 1 page or less for readability. Name means the procedure has a name that we get to pick. A procedure should do one and only one thing. Every procedure must have a starting and ending bracket, just like a class. All the code for a procedure must be contained within the beginning and ending curly brackets. Again, all the code inside every set of curly brackets should be indented in one tab to show scope. Indenting allows the reader to easily tell where the procedure starts and ends. You can start all homework assignments by copying and pasting the following starter code into your program, or just select the checkbox to generate the public static void main method and the checkbox to generate comments when you create your class. Get into the habit of writing comments for all your methods. In Eclipse, when you run the program, it will compile it. If there are not any syntax errors, the compile will save the results of the translation in a class file. That's the Java equivalent of an executable file. After the code compiles, you can choose Run from the menu to execute the code. Here is how you declare variables in Java. I recommend that you always initialize your variables to a 0 value when you declare them. Java defaults all numeric variables to 0 and string variables to empty strings, but it's good programming practice to specify them manually. Here is the syntax to declare variables. Here you can see the data types of short, int, long, and those are integer data types, meaning they store whole numbers. They cannot store decimal values. A single float data type always has 7 significant digits of precision. A double float data type has 15 significant digits of precision. Since it can store twice the value with twice as many significant digits, it's called a double. Look up significant digits on the web if you don't remember what they are. This example will show you a Boolean data type, and that's an on or an off or a true or a false. We also have a character data type, and character values are enclosed in single quotes. And at the bottom we have a string value, and that's a string literal, and that's always enclosed in double quotes. It's important to understand range of values that can be stored in any variable data type. You will see this in your homework. For variable declaration, you have the data type, variable name, initial value as shown here. You should initialize numbers to zeros most of the time. Variables must begin with a letter and cannot contain special characters. Be sure to follow proper naming conventions in this class. Names must be descriptive, no abbreviations, proper case, and the proper prefix. Here are some examples of what you'll find on the web, and these are bad variable names. Why? Because they are not readable. Be sure to declare variables with the following prefixes. Some people don't like to use the prefixes. They say they get in the way or they are unnecessary. I recommend prefixes because they allow you to easily tell the variable data type without having to look at the variable declaration. It's very useful and it doesn't take much work, especially when you have something like autocomplete. You can declare more than one variable at a time, but I suggest that you do declare each variable on a separate line. We do this for readability. If you want to declare a constant, you want to use the final keyword in front of the variable declaration line. Be sure to define the constant in all uppercase with the word separated with underscores. See my example here. After you declare variables, you'll want to do something with them. Here's how you use the assignment operator. You can assign a hard-coded value, another compatible variable, or an expression result to a variable, as shown on this screen. An expression is a combination of values, variables, constants, or functions separated by mathematical or logical operators. The mathematical operators are shown here, and the compiler follows the order of operations when it processes this. Here are other operators: the plus equals, the minus equals, etc. You may have also seen plus plus and negative negative operators. I recommend against using those. I'll explain that later in the semester. Here are the order of operations in Java. Use the PAL function for exponential functions, as shown here on this slide. Java has built-in libraries of functions and procedures to do many tasks. Sometimes you must import those libraries if you want to use them. Use the import command before the class declaration to let the compiler know that you want to include some extra code in your program. You cannot do implicit casting in Java like you do in VB.NET. You must do an explicit cast. In order to do this, you must place the target data type in parentheses to the right side of the equal sign, as shown here. We have different types of comments in Java. 2 forward slashes are internal comments and are ignored by the compiler. The multi-line comment are forward slash asterisks to start and with an asterisk forward slash to end. Be sure to use the forward slash with 2 asterisks at the start and an asterisk with a forward slash at the end for java.comments. You should use this type of commenting above all your methods. Here are the recommended naming conventions for Java coding. System out print is used for basic console output. Here are some programming examples of using it. It's good to memorize escape sequences for your program output. For example, the \T for tab, \N for line feed, \B for backspace, and refer to the following list on the screen. You need to know how to use printf. It is like C, but without the pointers. Here's your syntax. You can use placeholders for the variables. You must use %D for short, int, or long, %F for float and double, %C for character, and %S for string. This may be on a test in the future. Unlike Visual Basic, you do not have to use a line continuation character to continue a statement on the next line. You can use any combination of placeholders you want to use inside the string, but you must make sure the placeholder matches the data type of the variable that you supply. You must also make sure you have one variable for each placeholder. The order of the variables is significant and must be used in the order supplied. Let's take a moment to review these questions. Let's take a moment to review the answers. To summarize, Java is like C and C++. Unlike C++, in Java there are no global functions or variables, but there are data members which are also regarded as global variables. All code belongs to classes and all values are objects. The only exception is primitive types, which are not represented by a class instance for performance reasons. Variables are associated with program values. They are declared by writing the variable's type and name and are optionally initialized in the same statement by assigning a value. If, while, do while, for, and jump statements are used in Java. Casting allows you to take one object type and turn it into another. The import statement is used to reference other classes and other packages. You do not need any import statement if you are willing to always refer to Java util list by its full name, and so on for all other classes. Out is an instance of Java I/O print stream. Println is a method of Java I/O print stream. There are three types of comments: traditional, end of line, and documentation. And this concludes our Coding in Java lecture.